All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. I am taking over as host as Leroy is on baby duty, daddy duty for the morning. And because I am now the most, well, besides our guest of the two hosts, I'm the most well fed and energetic. Dan is still in prep. I have pulled myself out so I can get back to my normal activities, right? So, well, Daniel, welcome to the podcast. We're going to dive into it, but I'm hoping that most of our listeners don't need too much of an introduction for yourself as both an athlete, a organizational, executive, if you will. But why don't I turn it right on over to you? I'm going to thank you for taking some time to be on the podcast. I'm excited for what we're going to announce within this podcast. So if you're kind of wavering on if you're going to listen to this whole thing, I would stay tuned for the whole episode because we're going to introduce some interesting concepts towards the end. But again, Daniel, thank you for being on the podcast. Let's hear it from you. Let's let the listeners know who you are and what you're about.
All right, you guys. So first of all, thank you for letting me be here. It's an absolute pleasure. I have actually listened to you guys for quite a while. So in Denmark, we have a great natural bodybuilding community, and you guys are always one of the ones we recommend listening to. And I
We
think
appreciate that.
the reason being is I think as a natural athlete, you need to have some role models, and I think you guys do a tremendous job of bringing these role models forward. They have like a platform to showcase themselves. They get to tell a story, so on and so forth. So I think that's amazing what you guys do. That's the main thing we need to do in natural bodybuilding, right? It's to promote the athlete and actually make that a thing, like to be considered an athlete if you're choose to do this bodybuilding thing without drugs. So I think that's the first thing, right?
Yeah, and,
So
and that
appreciate
was
the
definitely
love.
the basis of why it was formed, right? Because there's so many different federations. There was no central hub. You couldn't really tell who was where and what and who was the champion of, this and that. And we just wanted to, like you said, highlight the athlete. So it's always been athlete first and continues to be so. Uh, some wouldn't believe that as much, but yeah, yeah. So we appreciate the support for sure, and we encourage you to keep sending people our way so that we can continue to grow the sport. But yeah, so and you kind of mentioned that natural bodybuilding is such a big part of the culture over there, and that's something that I didn't really know about until we started talking, right? Like everyone thinks of the UK, people think of the US. Now I know like some of like their Asiatic countries are booming as well. But let's talk about, natural bodybuilding over where you are. Let's talk a little bit of the history, the federation, and go from there.
All right. So to begin with, um, I competed for the first time in the first ever Danish natural bodybuilding show that was held in 2014. And so it's only 10 years. So this year we're celebrating 10-year anniversary for Danish natural bodybuilding.
Hmm.
And that's also a part of the European Championships. This year we have like posters hanging of the old school photos. We made them black and white so they look older than they actually are. It's only 10 years.
Hmm.
So we're trying to celebrate this 10-year anniversary. And 10 years is nothing compared to the regular IFBB Federation in Denmark that's been there forever. So in Denmark, it had the beginning in 2014, and it was actually started by a WMBF pro called Henning Christensen. And he has won several championships. He's a former world champion. He's competed many times. And then afterwards, another WMBF pro took over. His name is Thomas Nordahl, also a Dane, and he had the federation from 2000, I believe, 17 up until the lockdown, where everything was screwed.
Hmm.
And after that, he chose to. He's actually he's a pilot as well, so he chose to pursue that career. And the Danish Federation was about to shut down, and had been shutting down due to COVID, obviously. And
Hmm.
there was a break from 2015 until 2017, actually, because the economy it couldn't really you know how it is. Natural bodybuilding is not exactly like a multimillionaire sport of any kind. It's harder to get the sponsorships. It's harder to really make any money.
Hmm.
So they had trouble making this thing run. And then 2020, he sent me a message where he was like, Daniel, I'm about to be a full-time pilot. I don't have the time. I don't really want to do this anymore. And he knew me. I've always been supporting. I've been competing there, and I have athletes every year. I'm a coach myself. Always been supporting the competition. So actually, me and Frederick Gibson, also WMBF Pro, former world champion,
Hmm.
we took over the competition. That's my old training partner. And yeah, here we are. He chose to not keep going. He chose to pull out of the competition due to family stuff. He needed to be there. He has two kids and a house and a dog, and
Yeah.
yeah, you can tell Leroy's not here today. That's how it is
Yeah.
every time.
Oh,
Yeah.
we know that side of things for sure.
Yeah, so every now and then that's how it is, right?
Hmm.
So I've had the competition 2022, 23, 24, and we've grown like crazy from like 30 competitors to 175. And Denmark is a small country, so really a small country. And it's just grown like crazy. 1,500 people in the audience.
Numbers are good for sure, like especially for a smaller country, but I don't think that's as shocking to people to hear, 150, 170. But the number of fans that you have, that shows the community more than anything,
That's a
right?
lot.
Because people are enthusiastic about their athletes. It's not just somebody's wife or somebody's, best friend coming. They're bringing like the whole clan.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually the main thing for us was that, when you go and see a football, you guys call it soccer,
Mhm.
however, whatever sport you choose to do, right? You guys call it soccer. So if you go and see a match, that's 2 times 45 minutes, right?
Mhm.
So it's easier for the audience to digest. But if you go and watch a bodybuilding contest, it's like a 10-hour thing. And you're probably there to watch one person
Mhm.
as a grandma. So like it's harder to digest as a person in the audience, right? You have to be really down to you have to almost be an athlete yourself or former athletes to really get this thing and be what do you call it, like be entertained for the whole 10 hours. Let's say that. So what we've tried to do, we've tried to make it more audience. I think it's easier digestible for the audience. Let's call it that. So we have a conferencier, the guy with the microphone, and he's a former, I think it's called a Navy SEAL, but
Okay.
he's very like the Danish version of that, but he's very charismatic and very humoristic, and he's very good at activating the crowd.
Hmm. Yeah,
For
and that's
instance,
that's important, right? We've seen a couple shows where the MCs really, really get the crowd going. They pump them up, or the head judge, even for that matter. And then you
yeah.
have shows where it's kind of just quarter turn to the right, quarter turn to the right, and it's everyone sits there quietly, just observing. And the athletes feel that, and they like the energy too. When the crowd is energized, it energizes the athletes, and it's a better experience for everybody.
I believe so. And I believe you guys have maybe made a podcast with Lee Kemp. Have you done
Hmm.
that? The head judge of UK? Yeah. Lee Kemp has a very charismatic voice as well. He says, gentlemen, you're now being judged. He has this charismatic voice as well. And he's the head judge at all of my shows.
Hmm.
So him working together with Mikkel Mool, that's the MC, that's just amazing. So he's very good. He's doing the crowd. Lee is doing running the athletes. So that's a nice like teamwork.
Hmm.
So we've made that work quite well. And then it's just small things, It's like we had even a comedy guy be there, like a stand-up comedy, like to do something else for maybe the audience. We've had like try to juggle something like gymnastics, just bring something in where the audience is entertained in another way.
Hmm.
And I believe that it's more about physical culture. So if you can bring in other types of sports like exhibitions, maybe in the breaks and stuff like that, that also makes it appealing for the audience that maybe is into sports but not very much into bodybuilding.
Hmm.
something we try to do. But
Yeah, make it
yeah,
into an exhibition. I like that. Yeah, bring in some other different sports and different interests, and like it just breaks it up a little bit, right? So you're not seeing the same thing all day, every day.
Yeah, Mr.
exactly.
America is doing something very similar, just bringing in with the expo and having all the events that they have in the expo area with arm wrestling and powerlifting and all that fun stuff. So I think it's cool. It
Oh, that's
makes
amazing.
it more fun for everyone, and yeah, it makes it an event, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very important to have that part. Like, yeah, just if you have to grow natural bodybuilding, we have to treat it with the same respect as we treat other sports. And
Mhm.
that's got to begin with maybe having an awesome live stream. You have to have an expo area. You have to make it entertaining for the audience. What we do, we buy these, these bang bang sticks. I believe it's called like at sport events. I
Mhm.
bought like 1,000 of those. So can you imagine being in a bodybuilding show and the crowd is cheering and everybody's using these? That's very noisy compared to a regular bodybuilding contest. So what we try to do is just, all right, let's make the athletes feel this almost like a wave of positive energy from the audience. And you can just tell on the athletes when you see them on stage, when they get cheered on, they're almost like they're rising. They're like the chest is getting bigger as the audience are cheering on them, right? It's
Mhm.
something different compared to if there's just all quiet and they're like hitting a front pose and still quiet. The athletes feel like, all right, I guess this wasn't impressive. So so I think it's very important.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Get the crowd involved for sure. And you hinted at that you guys are doing like vendors and the expo and the whole nine yards. It's not just a show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and that's I'm hoping to be the way that a lot of these shows turn into. You said physical culture, and I think that's the best term for it, right? Not just you go to a bodybuilding show and there's one stage and that's it, right? Make it an event, make it, like a little miniature Arnold where you're going and you're seeing this exploration into fitness and all the different brands and companies. And that just draws in more people and more eyes to the sport because now they have other reasons to be there. Maybe they're not interested as much in one division. Well, when that division's on, they can go and, check out these other sports that are happening or talk to other business owners within the industry. And it just creates this better community by bringing so many people all together under one roof.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And that's also why, like, if we look at the enhanced side of bodybuilding, if we look at the Arnold Classic and Olympia, they've done so well with the expos. So if we as natural bodybuilders were ever to create maybe just something similar, so have like, like the FIBO, have you ever been to that?
Haven't been to, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
I've been to the Arnold Expo several times.
Okay, how was that? I've never been to Arnold. How was that? Was that amazing?
It's
Like huge.
packed. It's amazing how many people they get in that expo center. It's like wall to wall. Yeah, it's an event. It's
We need to. Why can't we have that for natural bodybuilding? I think it's just a promotion thing, really, because it's a lot of community. Obviously, yeah, it's very. There's one thing they have that we don't. It's not as impressive to look at. Let's face it, it's very impressive to look at 300-pound guys on stage.
Mhm.
But I believe that as classic physique is getting more popular and it's well, actually reminds just a bit more of a natural physique, not as big,
Mhm.
then we can tell that, all right, it's not just the size, it's not just that they have to be 300 pounds on stage, it just has to be very appealing to
Mhm.
the eye. So maybe we could even do that with natural bodybuilding, like do big, it could be like a one time thing a year where they have like several federations coming together, making a big event, something like that. I think that would grow natural bodybuilding for sure.
Mhm.
and I'm trying to think, even like the expo, like Arnold Expo, not everyone, I mean, I'd say most people aren't even going to see the show. They're going for the expo to,
Mhm.
see all the booths and, collect together with like-minded people more than to see the show.
Yeah.
Um,
And they go to the seminars and the guest appearances from some of the, celebrities or the more famous, influencers and
yeah, be
things.
able to meet people. Yeah, that's a big one. That's for sure.
And
Yeah.
that's, yeah, like you said, it doesn't even involve the bodybuilding side of things, right? It's just the community that's been built around the fitness industry, which we live in as well. So I think it's completely doable to do. And it sounds like you guys are kind of heading in that direction, right? We've talked about the Danish Federation, but obviously you're hosting the European Championship, so that's scales beyond just your country. So let's talk about that. What does that look like? What teams are coming or well represented normally? And what does that mean to you? Right? You said you've only had this federation or that you've been the president of the federation for just a handful of years. So to be kind of handed this honor, I'm sure is one that you're very proud of.
Yeah, I think to me, it's I can actually explain how that worked out. So, um, I try to learn as much as possible, and we have these leaders meeting where we have people who've been doing shows for like 30 years. And Lee Kemp, who's the head judge of England, we had this leaders meeting back in Manchester when he was hosting the World INBA World Championships. And he basically stood up and said, I think the best one out there to do the European Championship should be Daniel from Denmark. And I didn't realize he was going to say that. So I was sitting in the back like, I'm the new guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like really? Because he joked around about it, but there's like people in line. He said that and explained why. Because he's been the head judge for my shows. He believes we could do it, and he thinks they're good. So the people voted, and we got it. So
Wow.
so they asked me if I was willing to do it, and I took a deep breath, and I was like, all right,
Did
these
you
people
nominate
have
yourself, or
something.
you
So
just got thrown in the mix? You're like, oh, wait, what? Like
I got no, I did not. I did not.
people just voted for you. You're like, oh, okay. What going in? You weren't expecting that, huh?
Yeah, I weren't. So no, for me to ever vote on myself, I would never because I was the new guy. So I tried to, all right, pay my dues and work up some sort of, um, yeah, I guess, be, earn the spot, right? Um, but um, but people agreed on it, so it's gonna be interesting.
I was gonna say it sounds like your peers respect what you're doing. So, if enough people voted in your favor, it means you're doing something right, and we can probably expect something special out of the European Championships this year.
Oh, I certainly hope so. Like we're trying to do like something special, something I've just like with the expo. I feel like some of the hardest working athletes in this in all of sports, I believe, is natural bodybuilders. Like the amount of attention to detail, the suffering from the diet. You guys know exactly what it is. I mean, both of you are competing right now, and like it's it's very hard, and you have to like manage everything, like sleep, nutrition, the training, even like sodium intake on the day. People have different protocols, but it's very geeky, and I believe it has to be awarded. And to watch shows where people get like a plastic trophy and they will be like, all right, and that's it. I think like, wow, they have to award the athletes in some sort of way. So a beginning is to like be some of the first ones to actually give them decent prize money. And I
Mhm.
believe that's very crucial. And also not just for us, like for Danish natural bodybuilding, I believe like to be able to raise the standard and probably, hopefully, inspire other federations to do the same once they see. Next week, actually, you know what? I can just announce it here. We're gonna raise another thing. So in all pro classes, it's gonna be right now. You can tell we're posting every week, but it's 1,000 euros for each pro class. But at the end of this week, we're gonna announce we have another sponsor for the Open Pro Bodybuilding. It's gonna be 3,000 euros. So that's a lot. 3,000 euros for a natural bodybuilding contest. It's rare you see that, right? So
Yeah.
that's maybe around $4,000, stuff like
I'm
that.
trying to do mental math of the US dollar conversion. Yeah, I think it's about 4 grand
Yeah,
US.
I think it's
I
four
think.
grand.
I don't know the
Which would
exchange
be
rate.
one of the higher paid, I don't, maybe USBF did a bigger prize one year. I don't know if they repeated that or not. And I think Yorton is only 3,000 US, I believe. So yeah, I mean that would put it,
Yeah,
on par, if not
right
higher,
around with
than our big shows.
the title shows. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Good to hear.
Yeah.
You guys be, oh, no, no, no. We've seen a lot more.
No,
I think
no,
it's,
mostly small, and that's our title shows, right? So most of the
yeah.
regular pro shows nowhere near that. So yeah, but that goes to show that you're getting the sponsorships in, so you're doing the work, and that's if I had a criticism of some of the existing shows, not like the world level shows as much, but some of these pro shows, it's just when they say, well, we don't have the money, we can't do this, we can't do that. Well, you got to go get the money, right? You have
Yeah.
to
I
be
don't
a
have the money
promoter.
either. Like I have to like all of this is just like speaking to people. I have like old clients who run companies and I call them and do you want to be a part of this? Like it's a lot of about networking really. So you have to promote things, and to promote things you have to know a lot of people, and you have to be able to actually sell the idea of them promoting healthy bodybuilding, clean sport, fair play, stuff like that. And that's the main thing we do. So, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of phone calls where people are like, "Nah, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in that. I love what you do, Daniel, but this is not for me." So when people see we get one sponsor, yeah, but that's maybe 15 sponsors turning it down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a lot of work.
A
So
lot of
I don't have money
doors, and
either.
yeah, taking rejections. How do you? I'm curious because I mean, well, you covered my first question, which was just, how are you going about it? Because I know that there's promoters and others that watch this. Um, how do you go about pitching yourself? Maybe that'll be insightful to some people out there to get them to buy in, right? Because you got to get them to buy in. I've heard a lot of people, you know, sponsors and I hear talk with promoters and like, they'll say, yeah, we're trying to get sponsors, but like they're like, yeah, like I've seen these natural bodybuilding shows. They're like they don't really return much. They don't like do much for us. Like it's just not worth it. Um, but for these, I think that can change. And how are you? And I know from our conversation a little bit, but explain for the viewers like how you're going about pitching. Like, no, we're doing things differently. We're doing things professionally. Um, what's your process for that?
Yeah, so I hit that wall many times as well with the sponsors until I started to get some data from the shows. For instance, the first year we have a brand called Natural Athlete in English, and it's just Naturally Athlete in Danish. They do clothing. They're the main sponsor for the show. And the first year they were at the Open Danish Championship, they made profit of how much is that? Like 5,000 US dollars. That was profit from from a 1 day show. And I could take that data and I could tell the next promoter and the next sponsor would be like, all right, so these guys, what they did, they had t-shirts and one color of sweatshirt shirts and stuff like that. And that's all they had, and they still sold this much. Can you imagine what you could actually sell if you had, let's say, twice as much, bigger collection, stuff like that? So that's data you can draw in. Another thing is, if in Denmark we have let's say supplement country companies, and they use this thing called micro influencers. So not the big ones, but they have many small influencers, and then they have huge ones with many followers. And they actually see like a bodybuilding show as a way of putting in money into a lot of micro influencers. So if they have like a exhibition stand and people can come and taste their protein bars, whatever, they can maybe put some flyers on the seats so people will get a discount on their shop. Um, then they get people in and people get to taste things, and then the next time they will need a protein product, whatever, then they'll think of, oh, I tried this. I remember that. These people were nice. They gave me a free protein bar, whatever. So it's a way of them to actually be visible within the community. And because you guys know how it is as a bodybuilder, we're very meticulous when it comes to like, we don't want anything shit. Like we want the best protein powder. We want something that tastes nice, something that we can do oftentimes. Like I change my flavor maybe once a year, I guess. I just have like the same thing. Yeah, I know it works in my oatmeal. You know how it is.
Hmm.
It's like if I find something nice, I stick to it. So it's very hard for me to ever pick another brand because I know this works. But
Yeah,
if I'm at Expo and I taste something like, oh, this is great, and all right, you can just get a bag, and then I get the bag, and probably now my whole routine is changed, right? This is the bag I'm using every year now. So
What's
yeah, yeah,
that's how it is
absolutely.
for bodybuilders. We have to be like, we have our own like very squared and our own ways of doing things, right?
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think I think it works greatly. And the sponsors right now, um, what they do, they promote things in the city. So if I had to give one advice, and I not one to give advices, I'm also a new guy, right? But if I ever were, I would contact the city that the contest is held in and be like, are you guys interested in promoting the city? We're drawing people in. This is a sports event. This is like a local sports event. It's good for health. It promotes natural bodybuilding, every maybe some of the local gyms, stuff like that. And actually that has given a lot because they are like, all right, this makes sense. This is something we want. Even how people are sponsoring the local football club and stuff like that. This is like the same category as them, so they sponsor this thing because it looks good for the other companies to see. Oh, he's also on the wall, and this guy's also on the wall.
It builds their like tie into the community and shows that they're doing good things for the community, giving back, which obviously everybody wants to do. But also too, like you're talking about like the physical sponsorship possibilities. But I mean, you talked about doing a live stream. I mean, the advertising capabilities of a live stream and the amount of population that that can cover has got to be viewership numbers of your live stream. That
Yeah,
expands beyond just the couple local towns around the venue. And you can go to these companies and say, like, hey, we had 6,000 people watch the live stream, and they're all the way from Canada and US and UK and wherever. So if they have international shipping capabilities or they're a digital product, I mean that's massive to get into a new market.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's also a thing we do, right? The live stream with the sponsorships, and they show the commercials on the live stream whenever there is a break or something like that. So it's exactly same thing.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
that's
right now when it comes to the Europeans, one thing that we want to show, like guys like you, is what we can bring to the table, the Europeans. Because one thing I believe we know how to do is to get in shape. Like the European guys, we often talked about the British ones. The British guys were always in shape. But then the past few years, the Germans have started to like really, really get in shape. And whenever we see there's a lot of Germans on the show schedule, we're like, oh damn, this one's gonna be a tough one, right? So it's I very much look forward to show everybody like, all right, the level of different attributes. Uh, the people in Denmark, a lot of us are pretty big. Like we have some big athletes, heavy athletes.
mhm.
So it's some of them are like maybe not that shredded then, but we have a lot of muscle. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see.
batch them up?
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right,
that
right
that
right
is
now we have a lot of people from Ireland.
okay.
As your question to who's there, Ireland. The British guys bring a big team. German a big team. Obviously, Denmark as the host has a huge team. We just got some crazy athletes from Finland, Sweden, Norway, Netherlands is coming as well. They bring a nice team now. I think it's I think it's going to be quite good to see. Also, Greece, of course, Greece will bring that.
And are you
So right.
able to name drop a few?
Oh
Or
yeah. Uh, oh,
let's do it.
let's see how they're gonna feel about this. Okay, so obviously I have my own athlete, Christopher Bangsgaard. Christopher is his thing is his trademark is always his condition, and
See
this
if I
guy
can
knows
start
how to
pulling,
get
pulling
shredded.
people up
Yeah.
on.
So Christopher, actually, he just posted in his story. He's doing a show this weekend. I'm not sure I can tell which show it is. I think he's going like undercover for this show. But yeah, he's gonna be very, very shredded this time.
I
So,
saw him at like 10 weeks out. He looks, I mean, crazy. Yeah.
the thing is with him, like even has a bit of lines in his glutes in his off season. Like it's weird.
Oh, it is wild.
Yeah.
Very jealous of that.
Yeah, but
Not something I can
you know
get.
how it is. Then he has a harder time getting like very big in the in the upper body, right?
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah,
here we
this
go.
is 7 weeks out. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Crazy.
funny. Me
crazy.
and Chris has been working
Side leg
together.
detail is just absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, yeah, we've been working together for like 8 years now.
Look at the detail through the hamstrings. It's just, yeah.
All right, who else you got? Who else you got? Obviously, I mean, we could stare at his photos all day, but
All right, so we have another one. If we just begin with the Danish ones, we have Daniel Arfeldt. So Daniel is a former natural Olympia winner of the pro class. He's number 4 there. Yeah. He just posted actually a physique update. If you go down a bit. So
This one here.
yeah, right there. Yeah. And he won the last time he won the natural Olympia uh, men's physique. And this guy he's always shredded as well. Just some training stuff like that. But yeah, I believe you can tell there.
yeah, great taper for sure. I mean, those just
That's
wide
the crazy
shoulders.
thing. His waist is so small. It's crazy. Like when you see it real life, and then his back it has a lot of detail. So it's very very hard to beat when you look at it because I've never seen a guy with such a small waist. Yeah, look at these. If you go back,
Look at the delt pop on that.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
vacuumed.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the conditioning too, just how grainy he looks through the rib cage right there. He's got no fat on his upper body.
So if you go through them, yeah, I believe you'll see one from the back as well. I think that's his trademark thing.
Is there one there? Did I skip over it? That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Straight.
Pretty
Yeah,
good for a men's physique athlete, right?
I'd say so. Yeah.
We have a saying in Denmark, and this is rude, but people are saying there's always men's physique. That's the thing they say. Like, I'm not to be quoted for that one. Yeah, so like once you're like, oh, you've been competing many years and you don't really feel like squatting heavy anymore, they're like, oh, let's just go to that class. No, in reality, these guys work just as hard, and he trains his legs very hard as well. This guy.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely that division itself is evolving for sure, right? And you can see it at the upper levels. Those guys, they're filling out the trunks, and the trunks are getting smaller and tighter to show a little bit more of that symmetry. So, yeah, it's an interesting evolution of the sport, seeing where these classes are going, and the different kind of traits of each athlete.
Yeah. You know what? I'll show you. This is pros. I'll show you an amateur who's joining in. This
There
is
we
great.
go.
Okay. So if you're ready, his name is UTTI. Maybe you can search him up. I can show you guys in the chat here.
Hiatala.
Yeah, that guy.
Let's see it.
Reshare.
Yeah. This is an amateur who's competing at the Europeans. I believe this guy should be a pro. Like we'll see how it's hard to get any. There's a lot of training footage, right?
Says that arm. You can see there even just a rear delt, and he's not even displaying it. Look at that rear delt.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Dan's a
crazy.
big fan of the rear delts.
I'm a big rear delt guy, that's for sure. See if he has
If you
any.
look at tagged photos, you can see him on stage as well. Then there's some pictures of him on stage. You can see him at the Nordic Fitness Expo when you go down.
There.
Like,
Man, he just stands out. That's a big guy. You could see the frame on him.
yeah, yeah, and he's gonna be there. So what I can tell is he's a natural bodybuilder, but he can hang in the IFBB because they don't have a federation out there.
Mm.
So what you do when it comes to the Europeans, if you're from a country that does not have an INBA federation, they can search for something called a green card, which I'm able to give if they have a certain level of muscularity and can hang with the level. And he's been competing before and stuff like that. So he searched for that one, and I have a few I can give out, and he's one of the ones that got that. So it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up against
This
some
one's
of the.
from 2019, so this one's 5 years old. So
Yeah, so he's a lot better now.
Yeah, and
He's
that's the thing too for people to remember if they didn't hear you earlier. He's an amateur, right? Like this is the level of the amateurs over where you guys are versus I mean, and we're seeing, like our amateur classes are getting much more competitive in certain federations and certain shows, but the standard just across the board keeps evolving. It's just harder and harder to get that pro card because so many people are finding the sport. I truly think. I was chatting with Dan and Leroy the other day. Even when I started competing in 2017, the physiques that were winning pro cards then would be in last place now at an amateur show. I mean, it has adapted so much in just such a short period of time, which is very exciting as a fan of the sport. As
Mhm.
an amateur athlete trying to turn pro myself, it's less exciting, but but yeah, I love it. I love seeing some of these crazy physiques, and this is the beauty of this podcast. I can guarantee a lot of our viewers have never heard of this individual. I haven't, right?
Yeah,
And some of them might not have heard of some of the other ones that we bring the podcast together, and it just goes to show more and more people that
so
what
many great
truly
guys
is
out there.
possible.
Yeah.
The pond is very, very big, and the talent pool is very, very wide. And
yeah.
you talked about the Danish have like a specific look, and the
Mm.
Germans have a specific look, and that excites me as well, right? Because you almost know when we hear, UK bodybuilder, German bodybuilder, you know what they're going to look like, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah, that's
just
true.
there's an expectation that comes with a certain like region of the world.
Yeah. And I believe that's amazing also for the fans, right? To it's the same thing with football, soccer. Like when you see the English team, we know that they're playing rough. If we have the Spanish team, when they're playing against each other, the Spanish, they're like if they're being tackled, they're like playing some sort of theater, right? But
Mhm.
the British are just slamming through people, and it's nice to have like kind of the same thing in bodybuilding. I appreciate that it's we have this our own way of
Your
the
own
style.
styles for, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's I know for sure that we're gonna bring a lot of people who's pretty massive from Denmark. If they can get in shape, then that's a great combination. I believe the Italians have like this beautiful way, like very, very symmetrical, very aesthetic. Like even the open bodybuilding competitors from Italy, they all pose with like their hips shifted to one side. They're all of them are trying to look like the statues, stuff like that. So it's great to see. I'm going to Italy tomorrow for four athletes competing there at a show called Gladiatori in Rome, and that's like a pre-show before the Europeans. We want to test some things out with the peak week and stuff like that, and I can just tell like all the Italian athletes, they're always like looking into the ceiling and like shifting the hips and stuff like that. It's we as Danes are like hitting it right on, right? So it's
What is it, Nino with WNBF Pro? Um, Nino Judy?
I think that's one of them. Yeah, yeah,
Is he competing?
I don't know.
I know he's
Not
competing this year. Try to
yeah.
get him at the
You would
show.
you would almost have to, yeah, to pro qualify if you wanted to. But yeah, I mean that goes to show like there's certainly a culture around bodybuilding within each, you know, I'd say region, but maybe even like country specific.
sure.
Um,
It really is.
yeah.
Like it's great. I also think like we were just at the INBA World Championships in the Netherlands, and we as Danes we always bring a big team. And whenever there's a country, if there's an athlete winning from Denmark, they play the national anthem from Denmark, obviously, and all the other countries as well. And what we like to do, like we're standing like hands around each other and like screaming this national anthem, and I look forward to actually showing people this. It's very noisy. Like we oftentimes when we're at shows, we get told to shut up. Like we're way too noisy.
Yeah. Well,
But
I get excited just hearing that, right? Because I think a lot of the US based listeners have been to shows and they're these small productions, 50 athletes, just family and friends. There's no real quality value to it. So, I encourage people to go to these world level shows. I encourage people to watch the streams if they don't want to go anywhere, right? Live stream makes this much more accessible, and more often than not, these big shows have the streams now.
yeah.
Obviously, you guys are going to have one. So yeah, just if you have a negative view of the sport, just watch one of these shows and see who shows up, and you can pick up on the crowd noise, and you can see the production value and the razzle dazzle and all that stuff. Mr. A is a good one for that as well. I mean, Mark
I
with
want to
Mr.
see
A
that show.
puts a
Yeah.
ton of time and effort into making that venue seem like the real deal. We walked in and it almost took my breath away the first time, just the size of the venue and the lights and the screens all over and the laser show. And like, it was intense, and that's what it should be. And it sounds like you guys are doing the same thing over there.
Oh, I really want to do this. The only thing different this time is the venue is a theater. So we normally do it in a venue where we have this big hall when you walk in, and that's where the expo is. And we have to fit like these stands like in the reception of the theater. It's gonna be an interesting one. Like we're gonna do it, we're gonna figure something out, but it's definitely harder because the venue is perfect for the show, but the expo thing is gonna be we'll see. We'll see what we'll do.
Yeah. I do
It's
love the theater, the seating in theaters versus the convention centers, though, because you just feel like you're right there on top of everything. And for the athlete, it just all you see are just people everywhere, which I love.
You know what? I'll show you guys. You can show here on this. I'll show you guys the theater. Maybe you can show on the screen. This is
You have
amazing.
the ability to share? I can pull it up. If you might have the ability to share.
I have the ability to share here.
Probably.
Sound like an old man right now.
Unless I have control. I'm the master, the puppet master that controls the Zoom.
We are certainly not the most tech savvy podcast out there.
All right, let's see here. Uh, I'll send you this link. I'll send it right here. Then you can do it.
Yeah, just throw it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is then you'll know exactly what I mean, James, when it comes to like the theater thing. Because I believe it's also when you have a very noisy competition and it's in this theater, like it even like exponentially sounds higher. So it gives like the athletes a feeling of there's a 2,000 people in the audience, while it's probably like 500 maybe. So it's gonna be different. I hope this will can you guys access it?
This loaded. Yeah, wait till you see this. I'm just gonna hype this. You're gonna be impressed.
Yeah, Dan's giving
Daniel's already seen it, but James, you're gonna be impressed, and the viewers are gonna be impressed with this.
yeah, I'm excited for this.
Look how sick that was.
That's that's sick.
That's
Imagine the
amazing,
athletes
right?
up here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're gonna so I'll show you guys now. So you see all these balconies.
Mhm.
So what we'll do, we'll have like flags hanging down there that represents the countries. So they're hanging down on each balcony, and then over the audience will have like a sip with flags as well. Just like when you go to like an international powerlifting competition, I teach both bodybuilders and powerlifters, and I was just at the at the World Championships in Texas, where they had these lines of with all the countries represented flags, and it gave this feeling of like an international
International
show.
event. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I picked that up. I was like, oh, we're gonna definitely have that, right? And then yeah, obviously we're gonna decorate the stage, and it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be quite nice. We'll see.
I like how you kind of are looking within bodybuilding, but within other events. Like I like how they do this. I like how they do this, and pulling that into the event and taking inspiration. I like that a lot.
You know what? I never did that before I started doing the bodybuilding shows. Normally, when you enter a show or like some sort of event, you'll just be like, all right, my first-hand impression is this looks good, this makes sense. And then that's it. But once you start promoting stuff, you're like, all right, how did they put together that judges table? Oh, that's how it is. And they're like, what about those banners? How the hell did they get them up there? Like stuff like that you wouldn't normally think of. And it's funny you said that because I was at the Formula One. And I saw this was crazy production, like billions. And I was just walking around like, how did they do this? Like, how many days does this take to put up? Because I know how it is to put up one bodybuilding show. So
Hmm.
how do they put up? They make like a Ferris wheel in the middle of like the Formula One court, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. Goes to show when you have enough money invested in the sport, you can do some pretty crazy things. So I think that's what the sport as a whole needs. We got to get more sponsorship money, more eyes on the sport, more athletes in the sport to draw in more, more interest, and then we can start to see some of these crazy things happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this venue has several different like venues, like places you can rent, right?
You
Hmm.
guys gonna do something with this area? It looks like a nice.
Oh, we would love to, but that one is crazy expensive. That's like a top off, so it would be nice to have like an area for crew and stuff like that up there. But to rent this turbine, it's called,
Mhm.
you have to have a whole other a venue. So this they
Oh,
have
this is a
like
different venue. This is a different
yeah,
venue. Okay.
it's a different venue. Yeah, but I think it's gonna be very nice. We obviously we haven't told the viewers anything yet. This right here, what you see there, foyer. If you go up there, foyer scene,
Mhm.
this right here is the entrance of the competition. So
Okay.
you see to the right there, you have like this black wooden round circle thing. Right there, people will get their official photos taken. So we're gonna have a big banner that says European Championships, and then they can have their team photos. We're gonna have like the sponsored banner stuff like that.
Hmm.
You enter the venue if you go at those staircases where the golden handles
Hmm.
turn to the left there, then that's where you go in and see the venue. So
Nice.
this is like the entrance. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. And then that one we have as well. That's the cruise area. We have that for the cruise area. So they're gonna be chilling and actually it's like a cinema.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it's not a high school with the gymnasium or a side hallway as the backstage area. There's going to be
Yeah.
lots of space and lots of you know pomp and circumstance, if you will, for the venue, which I love.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I think right now we have a lot of athletes entering in each week.
Mhm.
What we're trying to do is I'm just gonna tell the viewers. I mean, like we're doing some collaborations with you guys, and
Yeah, let's drop it. Now I
yeah,
think
let's
it's a good
drop
time.
it.
We've hit it for long enough now.
Yeah,
Why we're particularly excited.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
So Daniel, we'll let you do the honors of sharing as much as you want to share for this episode, and yeah, I think we'll probably close the episode with that and a little bit of a brief wrap up. But yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
all
What do
right.
you got in store for the viewers?
So these guys, these fine gentlemen, and Leroy watching the baby, they will be attending the show. Not as athletes, but as the hosts of the live stream. So we're gonna fly you guys in and visit Denmark. It's gonna be amazing. I look forward to show you guys what we do in Denmark. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the main thing. It's gonna be crazy to have you guys over here, and you guys are gonna help promote like
Mhm.
the live stream. And I've just as I said in the beginning, like I've listened to you guys for a long time. You know everything about natural bodybuilding. And my thing was, I was the
Not
host last time.
everything.
We're working on
I was like, who can I have on the live stream who knows more about natural bodybuilding than I do, or at least just as much, right? And I figure, all right, these guys are free. They must together at least have more knowledge than me. So
Three brains together, yes.
that must be better, right?
Yeah, we'll
So
be coming right off the Mr. America and the next week heading over to Denmark. I think it's just hilarious because when we got the message, you were very like respectful, and just like as you always have been. It was almost like you were asking if we'd be okay with doing it. Meanwhile, we're on the other end going like, holy shit, this is an opportunity. Like, yeah, we're not passing on this. So yeah, certainly we were going to agree to that opportunity for sure. So what the viewers of the live stream can expect is very similar to what we do with Mr. America, very similar to what we do with the podcast, right? It's the three of us chatting about the different divisions, the different athletes. We're going to do our due diligence to research the athletes that'll be competing. So it's not just dry, right? We try and make things a little bit humorous, but also to respect the athletes that are on stage by knowing who they are, where they've competed, what their titles are, and really highlight the people that are there on stage. So yeah, I'm excited. We got our work cut out for
Some
us.
stupid jokes or
Yeah, we'll say some dumb things. Hopefully not offend too many people, but it sounds like you guys like that over there a little bit if you're bringing a comedian on stage at the show. So
Yes, yeah. Don't you worry. Like I think it's gonna be amazing. My main thing was just as I said, I would never be the one to suggest myself as the host for the Europeans. So same thing with you guys. Even though you guys were like thrilled to be on at the show, I would still come across as very respectful and be like, "Would you like to be here?" Because I don't think you'll ever be too big, too good, anything to be polite and to be like, you know what it is. I think it's good manners. And in Denmark, we call it being a jyde. So you say less than you know, and you show less than you can, stuff like that. I think it's good.
like it.
So you guys will also experience that if you're speaking with a Dane, and you guys be like, "What did you think?" And if they say it was fine, that means that was fucking awesome. So I'm not very much like that.
What's the way to get a Dane to really, really let loose though? What's the
Um,
secret?
oh shit, like dry humor. Yeah, same thing with the Germans. It's very dry humor, and I'm from Copenhagen, so actually this is quite funny. The city I grew up in, the city that I trained with Ibsen is Randers, the city where we're having the European Championships, and the exactly same venue was the first ever natural bodybuilding contest in Denmark. So it's very nostalgic. It's the exact same. I was an athlete on that stage,
Mm.
so this also has this nostalgia, right? But in Randers, people are, I would say they've changed a bit, but some of them are pretty tough. Like it's a bodybuilding city, just like when you're like in Manchester and stuff like that. But people from Copenhagen, easy to get to laugh. I live in Copenhagen now, but people from Randers, you know what? You have to earn them. So, so if they say something is good, that means it's fantastic.
Be a
Just so
little
you
bit of a culture shock for us for sure, but I think that's what we're excited for. See the world, truly, expand our community for sure, and hopefully work to expand your community, right? I think that's the beauty of this partnership is we have our demographics that we're really strong with, and I don't know if they completely overlap, right? You guys listen, like you said, you send people to listen to us a lot, but we know a lot of our viewer base is US, Canada, UK.
Mhm.
So I think it'll be fun to see, what else the world has to offer for sure.
Yeah.
But also the opportunity to meet a lot of these athletes that we've had on the podcast, that we've talked about, that we've seen on social media. We're very excited for this opportunity is how I would leave it, without getting too, too over the top with it. But
Maybe you gotta temper that back. You gotta warm us up. I gotta say, we're excited.
We're excited.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
I was,
agreed to the contract. Yes.
yeah, we agreed to the contract. Like I think the part where you guys can interview the athletes, that's gonna be amazing.
Mhm.
Like this thing of even though it's natural bodybuilding and it's not as big as well other sports, I think the athlete needs to be recognized and treated as if it were.
Mhm.
So like when they get off stage to be interviewed, to have like everything official and make them feel like superstars just for one day, I think that's very, very valuable. Because it's like a year of hard work. You know how long you can end up dieting if you have several shows during a year? Sometimes it's maybe a year in a row you're pretty much on a diet. So like to actually feel like everything comes together and you don't just get a trophy and then fuck off, and then that was it for today. You actually get to be interviewed and stuff like that and have more memories. The more memories you make at the contest, the better experience it is really for the athlete, right?
Yeah. And I think you would share this sentiment. It's kind of the idea of like, if not me, then who, right? If we want to make the sport better, we have to be the ones doing it, right? It might not be where we want it to be right now, but it doesn't have to stay the way it is. And our generation is going to be the one that changes it if we want it to change. So it starts with things like this, these types of partnerships, these type of ventures, individuals like yourself that are committed to bringing, you know, highlighting the athletes, bringing money into the sport. So yeah, we're excited for what you're doing. We're excited, obviously, to fly to Denmark. That's an opportunity we never thought would happen. But yeah, let's as we're getting in on an hour of the podcast, I want to be mindful of your time and the viewers' time. So maybe some closing remarks, things that you want people to know about, maybe like the dates, where they can find you, where they can find out more information about the show itself.
Yeah.
And then we'll obviously be dropping more information in the weeks to come.
All right. So if there's an athlete out there wanting to compete, they can just visit either our Instagram, which is a DFNA, or the webpage dfna.dk. The date of the competition is the 19th and 20th of October. The 18th is the registration. And right now, we have like 2 weeks left before the registration closes. So yeah, it's coming up fast.
Mhm.
So if there's people out there wanting to compete, it better be quick. If there are people out there wanting to watch the live stream, obviously tune in. We're gonna spam you guys with it, and you'll be able to listen to your favorite podcast.
Mhm.
And these guys will try their best to to make a Dane laugh online. This will be great.
A few hours to do so. So
Yeah, it's on the checklist of things to do.
That's gonna be great. Yeah, and I just look forward to it. I think it's gonna be great. And we have the Naturally Athlete company. We visited the venue yesterday, and it's amazing. And I spoke with them about it, and they were like, "Yeah, they're just down for whatever with you guys because they do so much social media stuff as well. They're the guys helping me with everything I do." And they're like, "Yeah, let's just collab with them, and should we make some shirts with them? You know, everything." So you guys can team up as well, and you can help each other out with the interviews and on registration, stuff like that. I think it's gonna be easy for you guys to make everything work.
Nice. Good, good. All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity more than that. But yeah, I think that'll just about wrap up this episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. If you guys like the episode, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Spam this everywhere so everyone knows what's happening so that we can get all of our eyes on the European Championships and Daniel and what he is doing for the sport over there. So again, we thank you for your time, and we'll see you guys in the next one.